Welcome back to Dow Twang. I'm Dave. We're going to pull up the tab here in just a second and go through most of the stuff in that intro. Um, Before we get into it, let me just mention that we're going to pull the tab up on the screen when we go through these four specific runs, um, one for each chord. But there'll be a full PDF or a link to it to my Google Drive in the description section. Okay. So you just download that. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to join anything. You don't have to give me your email address. None of that. Right. If you do want to kick in a few bucks, head over to Patreon, look up Dow Twang. And every week on there, we've got early release ad free lesson. It's just $5 a month. That's for 4 videos, right? 1 video per week, $5 per month. And, it's starting to add up a little bit at a time. If more people that get on board, it's really helping me and my wife out and helping our family keep all of this going. So, this week, it just so happens that I did a video using the same backing track and many of the same concepts. It's maybe a little bit more advanced. There's there's tab for it on there. I don't generally try to make the Patreon any different in level or ability than I do the YouTube channel. It's just sometimes I'll do a video and then I'll be like, there's more to do here, So I'll either do like a part 2 or something, or lately I've been putting one on each venue sometimes, right? But I don't do that every week. Sometimes it's just a completely different topic and different backing track and stuff. So let's put this track on. I will have some of this about 2 or 3 minutes of this at the end of this video for you to jam with. Now, I love this progression. Let's see where we are. Okay, it starts on A, then G, D, and E. Love it. Such a good, fun progression to play over. All the chords are major, and that's going to fit into our system here very nicely. Real quick, there's a song called "Slave to the Traffic Light" by Fish. It's got all the usual Fish antics in there, right? The exploring it at all different dynamic levels and leaving it real open, and then having a big, sick jam at the end, and it's just really cool. It's a nice one to play along with. Because it's those 4 chords, and that's kind of the whole song, right? It takes, you know how they are. It takes them a while to ramp up to it or whatever, but some of those live recordings, and it's just really fun. So check that out if you've never heard it. Let's pull the tab up and get going. Now, on each one of these chords, we're playing a major pentatonic run or scale, using the root of each chord. Okay. And this works. It sounds a little rote, but that's okay because it's training really important things. You want this stuff automated, right? When you see a major chord or 3 major chords, in a progression or a jam, one of the things that you can audition right away is this business of just, taking the respective root of each chord and playing a major pentatonic. So there's a lick for A, right? Now, wherever you're used to playing, the different shapes of pentatonic and so forth, great, plug all that into this method, all right? And then, sometimes you can, very often, there's a scale or a pentatonic that fits kind of the whole jam, right? In this case, you could play a major pentatonic over a lot of it, right? that when you get to that last chord, you might find that, oh, these notes don't sound wrong. They're not like out of the key, but they're not like landing on the notes that I want and so forth. And when that happens, that's when this method is a go-to strategy. Oh, you know what? For that one, maybe I'll just jump over, grab that E root and play like an E pentatonic lick. Okay. So however you use it, you want to get this stuff, really under your fingers in different parts of the neck. So this is kind of a jump start for that knowledge and practice. So here's the first one. Okay. Now you can hit the root first too. In the tab, I just have the chord written there, and then if you notice, like just after the chord, I have the lick. So you can kind of let that rest as well. If you on the backing track, it hits the A. Boom. Boom. And that's kind of a little nicer sound, right? When you don't always start with the root. But by all means, start off that way if it helps you. Now, one thing I want to mention right here is when you slide up and you slide back, you're pulling off when you slide back down. See that? All right. Right. And I marked all those pull-offs and stuff in there. Whatever you can do with the fingering and, that sounds right to you, that is fine. But there's a little tip, sometimes you don't notice that if you don't slow it down and point it out to everybody. So that's the A. Now when it goes to G, just another kind of segment of pentatonic runs that you might be familiar with. That sort of thing. So I'm starting here. All right. And then D. Same lick we did for the A. Okay. And that one's an important one because you can do that for all of them, basically. We'll look at that in just a second. So let's get this last one in here. So then the E is it takes off the same way. And it just keeps going up instead of. But they're all interchangeable, right? For the D, I could have gone. And for the E, I could have gone. That makes sense. So, once you get going with this, you take it from this kind of like, rote exercise sound to, mixing them, substituting them for one another. And that starts to kind of, get a little bit more interesting. And then you get to where you're kind of, stopping and doing some other phrasings with bends and so forth. Maybe even a diatonic scale like A mixolydian, right? We're not going to do that right now, but then you start to drop these licks that we're working on right here in at different places, and it becomes part of a diverse composition. Okay, but if this makes sense for you practicing this, and you're not already just kind of automatically doing all of this stuff, stick with it. Just go right through that tab and just keep repeating it because your hands, your body is memorizing all of that stuff too. It's not just your intellectual ability of knowing what n- the notes are and so forth, right? You want it in your body. So the other thing that I did in between those two uh, parts of the demonstration that we just went through was on each chord, I just kind of stayed in a little box, like something like that for the A, and then see how that's right. And so each one of these, the thing that it has in common is that my first finger is on that root, right? So it's like D, A, and this, really has, endless applications. Keep it simple. All right. So here's our routine on this. Practice the stuff in the tab and be able to just kind of cycle that around, right? Then, substitute some of them out for the other ones, like I demonstrated earlier, take the one that you did for G and move it to where you can do that one for D or E, all right? Then it starts to get a little bit more interesting. And don't cut corners. Don't just say, well, I know this. We're just moving the same thing around. Okay, fine. But do it because, the next challenge is can you stay in one zone of the neck and let that backing track play and take portions of each one and kind of put together, a composition in different sort of vertical columns of the neck. Okay. So, you know, I'm just saying that for those that might kind of try to do a skip on this, right? As it looks too formulaic for them or something, whatever. So be creative with it. And for many of you out there, just playing that just the way it is in the tab and being able to move around the neck like that, great. It's really going to help. Let me know how it goes. Appreciate all of you. Talk to you next time.